Welcome to Post Game Podcast. I'm your host, June. I got my boy B Foster with me, and this is not a player profile situation. This is the whole Pistons show. It's been a minute since we did one of these Jones, man.
Yeah, man. It's nice to be. It's nice to just do a full blown show and talk some Pistons basketball. That's the one team in Detroit that ain't doing nothing right now. Not getting wins anyways.
I mean, even the Tigers are batting 500.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since the Tigers have been as productive. I know it's early in the season, but still, to see them at 500 right about now, I'm cool.
Absolutely.
I'm cool. But how you been, Foster, man? Seemed like it's been a long time since we did a show. I'm pretty sure, I'm hoping that we get some live listeners and live viewers to check us out, man, because like I said, we kind of cooled off on the episodes. One of the things is it's been a tough season. It's been a tough season. And I think it was a lot of people that were probably about close to the halfway point, or maybe a little bit at the half, or a little after the halfway point, just wanted to get the season over. And there wasn't a lot of Pistons fanfare going on because of how unsuccessful the season was. But there's a bright side to every story, and I do think the Pistons do have young talent. I don't know if it's plateaued or it's going to plateau soon, but I think they got some people that can actually play. I just think there's something that needs to be fixed, and we're going to talk about a little bit about that today. One of the things is free agency. We've been saying for a long time free agency would be a thing that would help this program, that would help this ball club, because they're young and we need some veteran presence. MSU Detroit fan says, hold on. MSU Detroit says, hire Tayshaun Prince as GM. That's one thing that's happened over the past few days, is there's been a change in a little bit of the leadership. Trajan Langdon was hired as was the president of basketball operations.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that's, for those that don't know, that's the guy that's right above your GM.
Right.
So with that being said, it looks, I don't know if it's official, but for Troy Weaver, I think that's usually when you get, and that was a position that hasn't been filled, right? We didn't have a basketball.
We didn't have a president. Yes, we didn't have a president of basketball.
We didn't have a president of basketball operations. There was quite a few people that were disappointed with the hire, but I just don't see how bad it can be with a position that you didn't have in adding Trajan Langdon, right? I mean, there was some, I don't want to say the name of the sports show, but there was like, you're ruining this franchise with this hire. And I'm like, we didn't even have a president of basketball operations last year. So, and we went 14 and 68. I don't see this hire making it any worse. MSU Detroit fan says, yeah, president of operations is basically the second highest position for a team, only behind the owner.
We didn't have one for like years, right? Or
no, didn't have one for years. And that puts it in perspective, because for me, this is my opinion, the president of basketball operation, usually when you get a new one of those, he wants his people in there.
Yep.
That usually means your GM is gone, right?
Good.
So when you hire a new GM, your new GM wants his guy as coach. Usually that's how it goes. So it's going to be very interesting to see which direction leadership wise this goes. I don't think a change in the leadership is a bad thing right now. We know that the head coach has shelled out a lot of money for Monty Williams, and I don't think they have a problem with, you know, going a different direction. I don't think money's the issue. I don't think the money's the issue. Um, sad though. GM, MSU Detroit fan says GM are usually vice presidents because Steve Eiserman and Brad Holmes are also called GM and vice presidents of their respective teams. Interesting take. Anywho, I don't want to talk about these people no more. I want to talk about the fun stuff.
Right.
I mean, get into the politics later, who's going to run the team. However, I do think they're playing a major part of how things are being these past 2 seasons. The roster moves of new and old has basically made the Pistons' fate. What do you think, Foss?
You said what? Say that one more time.
The roster moves of new and old have basically developed the fate that we've had the past couple seasons.
Absolutely. I would certainly agree with that.
So not to say it's not important, but today's show, we have – well, hold on. When is free agency? Is that before the draft?
The draft is pretty soon. So
we're about 3 weeks away from the draft.
NBA free agency.
Find out when NBA free agency is. That's usually July 1st.
Yeah, I think it's after the draft.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because with the NFL, free agency is before the draft.
Yeah, starts before the draft.
For the NBA, could be after the draft. We're going to see in a second, though.
I don't know why July 1st sounds right, though.
It usually does sound about right, but that was just a guess.
June 30th.
That's 2 days after the draft, correct?
Yeah.
MSU Detroit fan confers June 30th. That's kind of crazy, right?
So it's actually kind of odd that free agency in the NFL is first. Kind of makes sense to make your adjustments for the draft, or no, make your adjustments for free agency based upon who you draft. Right? Doesn't that make more sense, actually?
Yeah. Anyway,
let you know how much money you're going to spend, because you have your money allocated for the 2 draft picks you get, but NHL. So,
yeah. I got to read it out loud.
Oh, NHL free agency starts July 1st, so close enough. So yeah, we knew there was a deadline for somebody.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we've been talking about NBA draft picks, and if you go to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube, you'll see the wonderful profile that Foster has done, player profiles, and we've been talking a lot about NBA prospects. We wanted to do a show where we can talk about some of those prospects. However, we wanted to gear this show towards free agency.
Yes.
For some odd reason, we were thinking maybe free agency started before the draft, but unfortunately it does not. But it's like right after the draft, so it's not like we're just ruining the motion. Like, it's still just as close as the draft. So Foster, there's a plethora of people on this free agency list. I'm sure you have one handy. Me and Foster have talked about who we like as far as a free agent. How we want to do this, Foster? How you want to approach this show?
Well, I have a top 5 as far as my wish list, and then a couple guys, and then a couple, fringe guys that I'm kind of like, not a big fan, or, but also possibilities. So, if you want, you can. And I know you got a couple guys that I'm maybe not. Well, you
Let's
kind of talk me into one, but
let,
go
let,
ahead.
let's do this, right?
Yeah.
Look, you have a top 5. We'll go through that list of wish list. Then, if we have any kind of clue of what's more realistic, we can go take a few from the realistic list of who we think would actually be in a Pistons uniform. And I'll tell you if I agree or if we're on the same page as far as your top 5. I don't have a top 5. I have a couple players that I would like to see here. But we'll start with your top 5. So we'll start off with your top 5. So Foster has his GM hat on. He's trading Langdon's first hire.
Right.
Foster, top 5. Who are you targeting in this NBA free agent frenzy?
And my name, so I'm just naming them right now. I'm not even giving you.
No. From least favorite to most favorite of your top 5. So
My top 5.
So go real quick, and you know what I'm saying. If you got to think about it for a second, your number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start at 5.
Okay, starting at number 5, Obi Toppin.
I talked you into it.
That's the one you talked to.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. What do you like about Obi?
What I like about Obi is that he spaces the floor and that he gets out in the open court and is above the rim threat. That's what I like about Obi Toppin. At number 4, same team.
Wait.
Oh! I thought we were. I thought you were going. Yeah. Go ahead.
A little commentary on.
Get your.
I say Obi Toppin, and he's one of the ones I would love to see here. He's lightning in a bottle. The athleticism is off the chain. He can play the 4 and the 3. I think he's a good shooter from the outside, and I think he's one of those players, a hungry player with a lot to prove. I think he's looking for a home and a payday. So I'm thinking this guy would be a good fit in a Pistons uniform. So Obi Toppin is one of my top 3. Go ahead, Foster. You can continue.
Yeah. So from the same team, Jalen Smith, which is somebody that a lot of people probably did not think about.
Wait, stop. Let me ask you this, right? So is there a possibility that there's 3 Pacers on your top 5?
Just 2. Yeah, just 2.
And so you didn't think about Siakam?
We're not getting Siakam.
I mean, as far as a personal preference, but we're talking about realistic.
Yeah, great possibility sure.
Okay. Talk about Jalen Smith. That's the center out of Maryland back in the day, right? Not back in the day, but a few years ago.
Well, he's listed as a power forward. I don't know if he if
he's about 6'11".
Yeah, he's a hybrid of both, but he shot 42% from 3 on small sample size, but he shot 42% from 3. It was 2 threes, 2 attempts a game. He averaged 10 points a game off the bench. And I feel like he can protect the rim. So
I don't think he'll ask for a bunch of money either.
No. And the other thing about it is that, he started in Phoenix and he was playing behind DeAndre Ayton. And then he went to Indiana and he was playing behind Miles Turner. So he falls under the category of guys that had the potential to maybe do more if given more of an opportunity. But I love the potential of him spacing the floor and just getting more minutes and having that opportunity. 10 points off the bench, not too shabby.
He's an energy player too, so he plays with a lot of passion and energy. Though he wasn't on my list, but that's a very, very solid number 4. Go ahead, Foster. Who you got at number 3?
Number 3, I have Nick Claxton
out of Brooklyn.
Yes. lob threat, protects the rim. Another guy that's, prime for a payday. And kind of pushes Duren to the side, but we need somebody that can protect the rim, and that he does.
Yeah. Claxton was not on my radar, but I think he's a good pick for Detroit. You would have to basically, he wouldn't be at 4, so Duren would probably be on the bench.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's your number 3. Who you got at number 2? I'm willing. Wait, before you get into these number 2, I just knew, right, that Siakam would be in your top 5 as far as wants.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm very intrigued on who's in your top 2. So go ahead.
Yeah,
wait,
wait.
Let's get to a break.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break. For those that are watching, it'll be about 6 seconds. For those that are listening, you just got to endure those 4 ads that's going to play. But we're going to get back to this next top 2 of Foster's free agent wish list. And we're back. We are back. And while we're back, please subscribe to Motor City Metrics and Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. Bleachers to Speakers is our new channel. We have some material up there. Check us out there. That's a new channel. We're trying to get some subs there. We only got about 125, 26, something like that. We want to get 1,000 by summer's end. Hopefully, we're putting in the work trying to get that channel up. So please subscribe to Bleachers to Speaker on YouTube. And Foster is back. You're back in the hot seat. The war room steaming. Who are you going? Who's number 2 on your wish list of free agents? This better be good, Foster.
Number 2 is Miles Bridges, obviously a hometown guy. He's another explosive player.
That's a good 4.
Yes, a good 4. He covers some of those bases. Another high gravity guy that's going to give you 20 points a game. He's going to get out in the open court, and all things. I feel like what I've been hearing is that he likes it in Charlotte, and that he may have some loyalty to them because they did hold him down after missing an entire year, right? Didn't he miss a whole year? Or yeah. So
Miles, they don't really like you. Pistons.
So but yeah, he fills in at that starter at the 4 role, and he's had a pretty quiet year off the court, which you needed to see. So but yeah, he covers a lot of bases. He's not a great floor spacer, but lob threat, open court, high, pretty high gravity guy, shoots pretty efficiently, covers a lot of bases for us. Not much of a rim protector though. But yeah.
Before you get to your number 1, I want to say Miles Bridges I had 3. And Miles Bridges is in my top 3. It was Obi Toppin and Miles Bridges. And I'll reserve my other one after we get Foster's number 1 wish list NBA free agent. Who we got at number 1?
All right, so at number 1 we have Malik Monk, an actual former teammate of Miles Bridges, but he's another explosive player that has primarily come off the bench. He was likely to be the 6th man of the year had he not got hurt, but he's a guy that is, I would assume, is looking for that big payday and also a bigger, opportunity to display his skills. He shoots pretty efficiently from the outside, and he's still only like 26 years old. So still room for him to grow, still in the prime of his physical career. And the Pistons need a reliable outside shooter next to Cade Cunningham. And I feel like he fits that role. And I feel like he would be just an exciting player. To fill up some seats in Little Caesars Arena. So that's the number one guy for me right now.
Well, that's a very, very good player. We talked about him too outside the show. So yeah, I think he'd be a good fit. He wasn't in my top 3, but he's definitely if I was to have a top 5, he'd be in that top 5. My number 1 wish list, whether I thought he was going to come here or not, I don't think it's a possibility. However, it doesn't stop me from wishing. Siakam. I would love to see Siakam here in a Pistons uniform to be at that number 4 position. So between him, Obi Toppin, and Miles Bridges, Siakam was at the top of my list. I don't think you can go wrong with either of those. I mean, I don't think Pacers going to keep all 3 of who you mentioned.
No.
There's just no way they're going to keep what's the guy name out of Maryland? The big guy?
Jalen Smith.
I don't think they're going to keep Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin, and Siakam. I just don't think so. So somebody's got to leave. So why not be here? Jalen Smith is somebody who I didn't even think about, and I think he'd be a good fit here as well. So there's some other intriguing prospects on those free agent lists. Some names to note. Do we have any free agents leaving the Pistons that we might want to keep?
That we plan on keeping? Yeah, I think Simone Fontecchio is probably.
You gotta keep Fontecchio.
Yeah, that's got to be like primary, objective is to make sure that he gets paid this year.
Yeah.
I'm not talking blank check type stuff, but
no.
I think we have an understanding of somewhere in the range of what he would want and what makes sense. So I like Simone Fontecchio a lot.
Okay. So with that being said, if you notice, most of the players on our wish list was at either have the capability of playing the 4 or is a diehard 4. Correct? Yeah. So go ahead.
Everybody but Malik Monk, I think.
That's the only one. Yeah. However, if you're going to go outside of the 4s for this team, Malik Monk is not a bad person to pick up on your squad.
And Claxton's a true center too.
Yeah. But pretty much, me and Foster believe that this team needs a 4, right? And not just a 4 because he's 6'10" or 6'9" or 6'11", but we need a 4 that can shoot from the outside a little bit. 4 that can rebound, block shots a little bit, run the floor. Just a good 4. I don't know, Foster. You mentioned Claxton. Let me ask you this: Have you given up on Durant?
No, I'm just not in a position to where I'm like, oh, well, let's give him another year to see what he can do, especially defensively. I feel like I'm not convinced that he turns that corner and becomes a rim stopper. That just may not ever be him. And we direly need that. And if it means that we can package him with another young guy and bring another proven player, I'm at peace with that.
So you're not talking about just sending him to the goo. You're sending him to the airport.
If the situation makes sense, I'm ready to win. I'm tired of picking in the lottery and the players not panning out.
Right.
We have young players. We have Asar. We have Cade. We have Ivy. We have a lot of young guys. And we have a new crop of players coming in this year.
Everybody can go. I get.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
it.
And ideally, you bring in a whole bunch of young guys. They're all on rookie contracts, and they all gel together and win games. But the reality is that we had young guys last year, and we had somewhat of a crop of veterans: Bogey, Monte Morris, Joe Harris, Burks, wasn't it? Burks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Burks.
So we had a crop of a nice mix, but they also weren't healthy. Bogey missed the first 20 games of the year. Monte Morris missed the first 50 games of the year. Joe Harris was terrible and eventually traded and cut, so it just didn't work out the way we had planned it. And Troy Weaver ultimately lost his job over that. And it's time to make some moves. He kicked the can down the road, acquired some expiring deals such as a Monte and a Joe Harris, and that ultimately backfired for us. So yeah, all the young guys can't stay. I feel like a lot of people are still convinced that Ivy could. Like, I feel like I talked to some people. Ty's like, nope, give Ivy one more chance. I think it's because you just bought an Ivy jersey, but that's neither here nor there. But so yeah, somebody's gonna find value. Somebody that's looking for a down low offensive presence may go after a Jalen Duren. But for me, we thrive off of interior defense. Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Bill Lambier. We can't stand to watch the Olay defense and the free rides to the basket. I couldn't stomach that. That was awful last year.
No more. I can't take it. So I'm gonna throw some names out there, Foster. You are Trajan Langdon, right?
Yes.
And first, before I throw the names out there, let me ask you this. You're Trajan Langdon. What's your first move?
My first move? Is this before the draft or after the draft?
Today. What do you do today? You've been given the job right now. What is your first move?
Well, he's got to make a decision on whether he wants Monty Williams to be his coach.
No, not he. What do? You're Trajan. You don't even have to say what you're going to do. You can say, this is what I'm going to decide on. I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to keep him or not. You don't have to say if you're going to.
Well, I'm certainly seeing what the market's like on a hate to say it, but a Stewart, because Stewart seems to be a name that people tend to look at. Stewart, Ivy, and Duren. What's the market there?
So you're looking for pieces for those three particular players.
Yep, I want a starter. You know what? I want to see what I've seen that the asking price for Zach LaVine has gone down, and Zach LaVine, that's one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
Of course, he's got injury issues and he's never won anything in his entire career. But Zach LaVine is a star. He's a three level scorer, a hyper athletic shooting guard. He's a number one option, 1A, 1B option, or maybe not on a championship team, but a team that's on its way to the playoffs at least. So I see what the market is on that, because I feel like that's what the Bulls are looking to move off of his gigantic contract. And yeah.
Let me ask you this now. See, that's very interesting when I asked you about that. And you brought up three players' names. You brought up Ivy. You brought up Stewart. You brought up Jason Duren.
And the draft pick. And that number 5 pick that we know has nothing really appealing that's like, I can't part with the number 5 pick.
Right.
Like,
okay. So you're Trajan Langdon, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you some names, and then I'm gonna tell you, and then you're gonna tell me what do you do with these players. But before that, we're gonna take another quick break. I'm gonna read this quote by Payday. Is that our pay?
I don't know.
Please go get Zach LaVine.
Oh, see, that should, yeah, come on, that's pay.
Because him being a Bulls fan, that's
See?
got to be our pay. What up, pay?
That's funny. That's funny.
We're gonna take a quick break and we'll come back. If you're watching, give us about 5 or 6 seconds. And if you're listening, you have more ads. Sorry. Okay, Trajan. Okay. Now you're Trajan Langdon. And you have to decide what are you going to do with these players. I'm going to start cream of the crop. Cade Cunningham.
He's going nowhere. He's right here.
Okay. It's going to get a little bit more trickier. Fontecchio.
You sign him. He's a free agent, so you got to go sign him. I think he's a restricted free agent, meaning that we can give him the most money. We can offer him the most money. So I don't think there's too much of a question on whether he's coming back.
Okay. Ivy.
That's a guy I dangle. No Diddy.
You dangling?
Out to who y'all want him? Like if we trade him for an Ivy, I'm assuming the Bulls would want him because they're comparable positions. So I'm guessing they would ask for an Ivy, which by all means, he's 22 years old. He's still got potential to get better.
Gotcha.
So,
Duran.
Duran, another guy I dangle for the right.
Beef stew.
Dangle. Hey, I would love for him to come back as a backup center / power forward. But the only guys that are untouchable are Asar and Cade. And in Asar,
he was going to be the next person I was going to say Asar.
Yeah, I feel like he falls in that category of he was a rookie last year. He showed an immense amount of potential, especially in the beginning of the year. And if you look at the numbers, I meant to send this to you. He actually improved his outside shooting in his before he got hurt or had the blood clot injury. He was beginning to, and I didn't really see that or sense that from myself, but I saw some numbers that were intriguing to me as far as his outside shooting after the All-Star break, because he definitely had a nasty stretch.
I think this is going to be a pivotal year for him. I hope that he's healthy for one. Blood clots are serious. Yes. And I hopefully he's back, got a chance to work on his outside shot during the offseason. I think it would be not during the offseason, but I hope he gets a chance to work on it during the offseason, because current season's not over. It just seems like it's been over for a long time. But hopefully he's healthy and he'll be able to work on his shot. And I think he's a very promising player if he improves. If he improves on a few areas, he's that Swiss Army knife that you could, that you can always use and put him in multiple positions. I think He's one guy that I'm very hopeful for. I haven't completely given up on Ivy, but I'm not hurt if you decide to part ways. There's only one person that I'd probably be pretty upset with you getting rid of, and that would be Cade. I think Cade is pretty much untouchable right now.
Yeah, not a chance. Not a chance.
Yeah, you don't get rid of Cade. You keep Cade and you build around Cade. Got to. Duran is another place. Duran is another guy who I feel I haven't given up, but at the same time, if you're going to get some value, if you can get value with him, I won't be hurt if you got rid of him. Richard Bostler says, speaking of Tigers, I think Scott Harris is destroying this team. Foster, who is Scott Harris?
Oh, he's the GM and out for the Tigers, and yeah, he's a little. I feel like he's scared to start his clock. You know how you get a certain amount. At some point, you got to make moves, and then it starts your clock of seeing whether or not your moves are going to get you fired or get you, keep you around. And he's all about developing, not blocking the talent from the minor leagues, and developing the young guys. And we're kind of like a move or two away from being a legitimate playoff contender. So, of course, everybody wants those moves to be made, especially when what we need is right in front of us. It's not a question of what we need. It's like, when we're going to make that move. So, yeah.
Well, here's an alley-oop, Foster. Questions like these can be answered and fulfilled on Mondays when Foster does his show. And what is
Sundays?
Sundays, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, sometimes they're on Mondays, depending on what we got going on, Mother's Day and all that type of stuff. But the name of the show is Corner to Copa. We do our live visual shows on Bleachers to Speakers, and you can catch the audio version on all audio streaming platforms every Sunday. And we do, and roster updates, call ups, call downs. We keep you posted on those as well.
See, Foster does football, basketball, and baseball. I'm going to talk him into 1 year venturing into the Red Wings.
Coach knows a lot about the Red Wings. Honestly, I watch it, but I can't break it down to the same extent. But I can watch a game and follow it and know what's going on. So
okay, that's something
But Coach could legitimately do a show.
That would be dope. Maybe we'll talk off air about this, man. We got to expand our horizons, The channel's going to grow.
Trying to go global, trying to be seen in Sweden and Canada.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? There's a big enough street to have more than Woodward Sports. You know what I'm saying? And not to throw shade. I mean, I would love to be where Woodward Sports is.
Do they still have it? Did I what? I don't even see them on my algorithm anymore. Anywho, that's June's fault for bringing that up.
I mean, I do. I watch them. I watch them just about every day.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Yeah, they're not in my algorithm, man.
They're not going anywhere, bro. Their channel,
they're big.
Their network is growing at a rapid pace.
Right down the street.
Yeah, they're pretty dope. And they inspire me. So I want to be where they are. So back to Pistons. Okay. Back to Pistons. You can take your Trajan Langdon cap off. You can do that.
Ooh, the seat was hot.
Yeah, man. You can take that off, man. I want you to relax. You don't have to make any moves. But I'm saying if I'm Trajan Langdon, I focus on a GM. Right?
Yeah.
And And I think you put all your eggs into a GM basket because this guy, your GM is going to do the work for you, right? Not saying that you need somebody to do your work, but if you got a person that's at GM that's knowledgeable and working their butt off, it's going to make your job as president of basketball operations much easier. So, because with that being said, your GM is he's going to lobby for whether he's going to keep the head coach or go another direction. And if you get a good GM, he's going to make what he feels is a good decision. It's probably going to be the best decision for present day, you know, as far as, what's going to happen right now. Uh, Me personally, feel bad for Monty. Feel bad for Monty. Um, he's had a rough season. That was his first season here. He accepted a lot of money, and
You
it's
feel
just,
bad because he accepted a lot of money?
no, it's just I don't feel bad that he accepted a lot of money. I feel bad that when you accept a bunch of money and it goes like this, they're pointing the finger at you.
No matter
They're
what.
saying no matter what, and it's pretty messed up because you walk into a ball club that only won 17 games the season before,
Right.
and you follow it up with 14-68, and it's not your fault primarily. However, you're going to get the brunt of the blame. Nobody's trying to hear such and such was out, such and such was injured. Nobody's going to even consider Bogey missed the first 20-something games of the season. Nobody's going to care if you traded and got Grimes and he didn't play. No one's going to care that Monty Morris didn't play but 7 minutes the whole time he was here. Who would have told you Joe Harris would have got here and played a few games and he didn't look like he could shoot? Nobody's going to pay attention to that. They're just going to look at 14-68 and said, you paid Monty Williams all this money for that. No, I mean, it's just the way it is. It's crazy. What are you going to do with Grimes though, Foster?
We still have, I think we still have one more year of control. So he's a guy that didn't play much last year. He showed some potential in the New York game, not ironic at all, and he showed some potential in New York. He was an untouchable player in the Donovan Mitchell trade, which we've said many times. But so I could see him being a toss in on a trade just because there's some potential there, and he's not very, and he's not very, he's not very expensive, and I can see them parting ways with him just off the strength that there's no personal that he's a fan favorite and we love, he wasn't here long enough to have that type of attachment. So I'm not mad at bringing him back just off the strength that I know what he can bring and what he has the potential to bring. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's essentially what we need really, really bad. But I can see in a situation where they need another body, some more salary, I can see him being thrown into a deal for a starter, a legitimate starter. So, if it comes down to, do we put Grimes in a trade to get Brandon Ingram? Bye-bye.
Is is Ingram a free agent, or because
No, he's got, New Orleans has one more year of control of him, but they don't want to pay him what he's going to be asking for. He's going to be asking for 35 million, and they already have Williamson, and they have who's their other high paid guys?
McCollum?
Yeah, but he's kind of older.
It's getting old.
they just got a whole bunch of wings. They got Murphy, they got Herb Jones. I think Herb Jones just got paid, maybe, but they got a whole bunch of wings.
Yeah.
And they don't want to pay him. I mean, I'm sure McCollum's making pretty good money. But yeah, he's on the trading block. I don't think he's coming back next year. He's going somewhere.
Well, that about do it for today. It's getting closer to the draft. It's getting closer to free agent. They're all in the same week within each other. It's going to be very interesting on what Trajan Langdon does as far as a GM. It's not official, but I've been hearing word that Troy Weaver's out the door. Have you heard anything, Foster?
Yeah, I think they basically said they've agreed to part ways. The one thing that I do want to discuss my apprehensions of the whole free agent process. Obviously, we have lots of money to spend. We have upwards of $60 million to spend. And I think that's pending whether we pick up the option on Fournier, which we will not pick up the option on Fournier. But my apprehensions are just that there's a lot of guys in free agency outside when you get past Paul George and James Harden and D'Angelo Russell, who has a player's option that he'll probably opt into. You got a lot of guys that are looking for big paydays that are essentially expanding their role. So we're banking on them ascending to that next level of being a starter. Guys like Malik Monk, Isaiah Hardenstein, Jalen Smith. These guys are Derek Jones. These are guys that have been primarily bench players, but certainly not number one, number two options. But they're looking for an opportunity to get paid and expand their options. So what worries me is that we're going to overspend for guys that haven't proven that they can get to that next level. So that's the scary thing about them saying that Hardenstein is looking for upwards of $100 million, and he's never been a day one starter. And Derek Jones reminds me of Josh Smith, poor man's Josh Smith, and we all know how that went. So yeah, but the moral of the story is we need to spend some money. We need to trade some of our pieces, bring in respectable starters to go around Cade Cunningham, because it's time for Cade Cunningham to not have the out and excuse that they haven't surrounded me with the stars for me to reach my potential, because it's almost time to pay him his rookie max that he's going to inevitably get.
For sure. All right. Well, we'll figure out when we're going to do another show. Hopefully it's next week. We'll keep this going. We'll have some more topics.
Yeah.
And subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. Check out the player profiles there. Foster does a great job. And check us out on all podcast streaming platforms. You got any last words, Foster?
No. Continue to tune in to the player profiles. I think we have probably over 50 rookies. I want to say 50 for some reason, but tons of rookie profiles for you guys to check out. So just while out on all those, you can watch those for probably a good couple hours. And please subscribe. So we drop about 4 or 5 profiles every week.
Mm-hmm.
And we do the baseball show, and we do the baseball, and then we do we also do a weekly show with all our NFC North comrades, and those are always fun. It's good banter within those shows as well. So training camp is we'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. That about do it. Subscribe to Bleachers Speakers on YouTube.